What is going on, people? It's Matt from Liquid Loans, and in this video I'm joined by YouTuber Adam Stokes, whose content I've been enjoying for quite a while. So excited to have him here on the channel, find out more about himself, his take on the markets, and where he thinks the crypto space is heading in 2022. So with no further ado, let's go. Hi Adam, great to see you. Thanks so much for coming onto the Liquid Loans YouTube channel.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks. Can I just say, I came across your YouTube channel, I think last summer, and you really stood out from the other crypto YouTube influencers because, first off, you cover all the markets and all the different coins and protocols, but I think you're the only person who gave Richard Hart, PulseChain, Hex a fair hearing. So thanks for your objective content, your unbiased content. I really appreciate that.
Thank you. It didn't come without criticism, I can assure you. In fact, I lost a lot of subs even just talking about it. When you what I'm trying to do is just seek neutrality in everything that we learn. All I want to do is find out the truth and make sure that we're, making sound investments. But when I was looking into Hex and Richard Hart, I was actually exploring Hex when it was called Bitcoin Hex. This was years and years ago before it was even released. And I just knew there was something in it. It just seemed to be bigger than some of the other projects out there. But as you know, it's so controversial that when I was talking about it on my channel, many people wrote to me and actually abused me and said, "I will never talk to you again. How dare you speak about this? You're promoting a Ponzi scheme." And, I would respond to these people with kindness and say, "Well, I really want to learn from you. Can you come onto the channel and tell me how it's a scam? I'm not going to say you're wrong. I want to learn from you."
Mm,
And there was only one person who took up the offer. His name was Hung Tran,
mm,
and he came onto the channel, and his English wasn't so good, but it didn't matter. We created the space so he could speak and present his argument. And I don't think he convinced anyone, but I was very impressed with the Hex community because I think Richard Hart has set the stage for open debate. We've seen Richard Hart bring haters onto his channel, and I sort of followed his lead by doing the same thing by saying, "Hey, if you believe Hex is a scam, come on and let's talk about it." And when Hung Tran came on and spoke about why he believed it was a scam, I was so impressed that not one Hexagon abused him. There
mm.
was no hurling rocks. And in crypto, you can have a lot of tribes. If you
Yeah.
look at the history of crypto, we might look at Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash as an example. That was very divisive many years ago. And then Bitcoin SV, that was even more divisive. Then you have the XRP army, Ethereum versus Cardano.
Yeah.
And of course, we're all into crypto, but we have these, if you will, sub tribes within crypto. But again, I was so impressed that when I interviewed Hung Tran, that no one abused him, and well done to all Hexicans for hearing him out and being respectful for his insight, even if it wasn't substantiated.
I think a lot of the Hex community have got more of a more mature mindset, and I think that's kind of passed down through the delayed gratification and do your own research and stuff. But also just watching your content, I can tell that you're someone who wants to seek the truth, and you want to hear all sides of the argument. And like you said, you brought someone on because you wanted to find out maybe I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. So it's really good to see someone in the crypto space who's unbiased and objective as well. For people that don't know who you are, because I'm sure a lot of people watching this know who you are, for the people that don't, maybe you could give us a quick bio and background on yourself and how you got into crypto and stuff like that.
Yeah, sure. Well, where do I start? So I'm an Aussie, lived all over the world, speak a few languages. I've got a few finance, management, and economics degrees in my background, masters. But I only say that because I didn't really understand money until I got into crypto. So my journey in crypto started about 2015 or 16. And it all started when I went over to a friend's house for dinner. They said that you have to watch this documentary. They were halfway through a mining documentary. And I said, "Oh, well, we'll just keep watching it." And they insisted, "No, you must watch this documentary from the beginning." And I'm so glad they did because it's changed my life forever.
Mm,
My journey in crypto started after watching that documentary in mining. So my background is, um, first of all, mining on the SHA-256 algorithm,
mm,
Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin, and then also going into the script algorithm with Litecoin, also mined some Dash and Siacoin. And I was fascinated with the concept of essentially plugging a machine into the wall and, if you will, money coming out the other end.
yeah.
And I spent a lot of money on mining. And from an investment perspective, I would have been better taking all of that money and just putting it straight into Bitcoin. But from a
Mm,
learning perspective, I'm so glad I did it because now I understand that the core of mining and proof of work and proof of stake. Because I can assure you, when you spend tens of thousands of dollars on mining rigs, and then tens of thousands of dollars on electricity bills, you very quickly become an expert in mining because one mistake, you're hemorrhaging money, lots of money.
Mm.
And then when I was getting a lot of work done on my house, many of my builders, they were they're constantly asking me about this crypto thing because part of the construction in my property was building this big mining farm. And of course, they were asking, what is this mining thing? And I kept explaining the same thing over and over again until one of my builders, who's very successful in crypto now, he said, "Why don't you just make a YouTube channel?" And I'm like, "No, no, no, I don't want to be on the camera. That's not my thing." But then I realized it was actually an efficient way of explaining something in crypto on camera once, and then whenever anyone asks about it, I can just steer them to
Mm.
a video. And then it sort of went from there. I just started expanding on the commentary, the exploration, the investments, and then I wrote a book, 28 Pro Trader Tips: The Art of Trading, and that was looking at the different side of trading. So I've been trading for many years in the background outside of crypto, but
Mm.
then when I got trading within crypto, it's so much faster. Everything's moving faster and further, and it's more dynamic and more exciting. And as a result, I wanted to write a book that was outside technical analysis because I think the market is really swamped with TA, which is an important part of trading.
Mm.
But the really the most important part, in my opinion, is actually the human side, because people make up markets. Markets are made of people. People are made of emotions. Emotions lead to actions, and
Yeah.
actions move the markets in a certain direction. So when I wrote 28 Pro Trader Tips: The Art of Trading, I wanted to articulate to investors and traders, this is some of the stuff that you have to think outside of, Bollinger Bands and parallel
Yeah.
channels and drawing triangles over screens. There's so much more to that. And I'm very concerned that many channels are so focused on drawing lines on charts that they're forgetting the core of trading inside and out of crypto, and that is people.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you said, emotions rule people, right? And some bad news or maybe some whale wanting to do something on the spur of a moment can just turn the market. And no TA is going to save you when that happens. That's really interesting. I didn't know that you came from the mining background. When did you wrap up your mining enterprise?
Well, they're still running. So what happens when you buy an ASIC miner, like an application-specific integrated circuit miner? The issue with those miners is that they only do one thing. All they do is mine,
Mm.
and they have a very short life. They have a short life in two ways. First of all, they work very hard. They're very hot. They're very
Mm.
electricity hungry, and they draw in a lot of dust. Even in my mining farm, I have big air filters going just to reduce some of that dust, but it doesn't matter. They'll eventually pick it up. So mining is like, I've often said it's like having a child. You've always got to check on it. You've got to, change its nappy, if you will, which is cleaning the dust out of it. You've got to see it's okay, which makes to make sure that there's internet connection to it. You've got to make sure they're not too hot. You've got to make
Mm.
sure they're running. You're constantly checking. So it's quite labor intensive, believe it or not. It's not as simple as just plugging in a machine. So as these machines sort of wear out, either because they become no longer competitive, um, when I first started, my machines were doing 9 to 13 terahash, and now they're up to 100 terahash, and you just cannot compete
Yeah.
if you unless you have free electricity. So if you have free electricity, and in some instances, some people do have free electricity, it's just simply not worth it anymore. But it's so difficult to keep up with these the big boys who have got the big mining farms. So
Mm.
essentially, as my mining rigs die, I'm really now into GPU mining because at least with graphic cards, you can sell them later. But of course, the problem
Mm.
with graphic cards now is because all of us miners are buying them, all the gamers are angry at us. And I understand why they're angry at us, because if they have nothing to do with the crypto space and they just want to get a good gaming card, a
Yeah.
graphics card, they're just so expensive. But again, as a miner, when these graphic cards are expired, you can then sell them onto the market to do something else. Whereas with an ASIC miner, you can't do that.
Mm.
So overall, when people say, should I get into mining? I've taught people how to do hobby mining, where you might use your computer power at home, but
Mm.
that's not going to be very competitive. You're not really going to make any money off it, but it's still fun when you've got a mining running on your desktop and you can see satoshis coming in. It's essentially free money, and when you can join mining pools and get some good mining power, you can get some returns. But at the moment, it's just not worth it. The way to really make money, in my opinion, not financial advice, is really just dollar cost average. You can mine, you can trade, you can do your ICOs, which is certainly where the big money's at. If you can get into a project early, such as sacrifice phases or ICOs
Yeah.
or IEOs or IPOs, that's where the big money is, but it's also the big risk. So overall, when people aren't sure, I say, look, the best way to do this, and it's undeniable. You keep seeing it over and over again, every week, every fortnight, every month, whatever it is. Put in whatever money you can afford to lose, $5, $10, $100, and in a few years, you're sitting on big amounts of money at very low risk.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, getting into projects early and DCAing in is, of course, it still takes patience and it takes discipline. But compared to looking after a whole farm of mining
Mm.
equipment, that sounds much more, energy and cost intensive. So obviously, there's no one better than to talk to about proof of work versus proof of stake. What is your take on how these two compare?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked, 'cause so people get angry at proof of work, and it I don't think they understand it has a very important part in the ecosystem. So, just yesterday, I released a video about EU was going to put a bill, which should be going through just today,
Mm,
where they were going to ban proof of work algorithms. So everything was going to move to proof of stake within Europe. But proof of work is not a fault; it's a feature. And I'm a big believer in these ecosystems coexisting.
mm,
Even if you look in nature, there are different types of ways that life survive, and I guess environments thrive. And I see the same within crypto. I don't think there needs to be only proof of stake or proof of history or proof of work or so forth. I think they can coexist. Proof of work, the power of proof of work is its true decentralization. So if you think of the crypto trilemma, you can't achieve all three sides of the crypto trilemma. And you have to understand that whichever algorithm you're going to pick, you're going to sacrifice one corner of that trilemma. And as a
mm,
result, you can have these crypto ecosystems coexisting to make up for where another one falls down. Because when it comes to proof of work, we need to remember that mining is mobile. So if I want to have a bank, as an example, in the middle of Sydney and it's using lots and lots of electricity, we've got a huge building, huge servers, a lot of electricity for lighting, heating, cooling, cleaning. Then you've got people driving to and from the bank. You've got lots of paper. Banks are, in fact, an environmental disaster, and they use way more electricity, way more power than Bitcoin.
mm. Yeah.
But they'll never talk about that because Bitcoin is competing with the banks, and banks want to get rid of Bitcoin. But when it comes to that model of the bank, I can't pick up a 30-story building in the middle of Sydney and move it next to a dam in China where there's free electricity. And even
Mm,
if we say China's banned mining, let's go to, I don't know, Canada, where they've got huge dams there as well, and a lot of essentially free energy falling to the earth. So, because crypto mining is so mobile, all you need is an internet connection, and you can move these mining rigs to wherever there is free power. And there is a lot of free power.
mm,
You can see with gas flaring as well, a lot of entrepreneurs are taking this excess energy that is just being released into the atmosphere, heaps and heaps of energy just burning off into the atmosphere. Well, if we capture that energy and we run the SHA-256 algorithm, the algorithm is essentially running for free. I can't do that with a bank. I can't say to everyone in the bank, I'm just going to move you to this big flare, this gas flare, so we can run electricity off it and run you guys for free. But
mm.
you can do that with crypto. You can do that with Bitcoin. Now, when it comes to proof of stake, again, really efficient system, fantastic system, and I really enjoy staking rewards at the moment. So it goes back to, I always say this: what's better, a car or a truck? Well, it depends what you want to do. It's not that
Mm,
one's better or worse, it's that they're different. So in the future, I'm a big believer in Bitcoin. I realize that within the Hex community, Richard Hart says Bitcoin's going to zero. And I really wish I took him up on that bet where he said with Alex Saunders that Bitcoin was going to go to $10,000 by the end of I think last year.
mm.
Uh, I, we would have won on that. And I understand why Richard believes it's going to zero, but I certainly don't believe that. And of course, within the crypto space, we need to challenge everyone's ideas. We need to challenge ourselves. We need to challenge those who we look up to, and even those who we look across to. There is no one answer, and I see the future of this all coexisting together.
Yeah, that's an interesting take, actually. And you're right, it's nuanced. Normally, you get people on both sides, right? Proof of work is the best, or proof of stake is the future, and there's no room for proof of work. But like anything in life, nothing's black and white, nothing's cut and dry, and there's definitely two sides to it. And we'll see, obviously, how things progress as we move further down the road. Talking about the markets and Bitcoin going to zero, are we in a bear market or are we not?
I don't think so. No, I think we're in a very interesting time. So we used to talk about the 4-year cycles, but the reality is we did not have enough data points for the 4-year cycle. So Go back to basic technical analysis. 2 points will show us a trend, and 3 points will confirm that trend. And this is my little cat that's going to join us today. Don't worry, she's high maintenance. When we look at the 4-year cycles, we can see that we didn't actually have enough data points to confirm the trend. We had 2, and we thought that, after the last halving. So what typically happens is you have the halving, and then the next year we go into a bear market.
Mm,
And that hasn't happened this time. And the main reason why it hasn't happened this time, in my opinion, is because everything is different in the sense that now fiat is collapsing. In the last 2 cycles, I mean, fiat's always been collapsing because fiat
yeah.
operates in market failure. Fiat will never survive. And in the history of humanity, all fiat's everywhere by everyone, irrespective of the flag you fly, the language you speak, whatever, however you identify, fiat doesn't care. Fiat is
Mm,
blind, just as Bitcoin is blind. It doesn't care who you are, what you look like. Fiat will collapse. Now, in the past, fiat wasn't collapsing as fast in the last halvings, whereas this time it is. We can see that we're moving well past transitory inflation. America has said that it's 7.5% inflation. It's not 7.5%.
mm,
It's more like 10 to 20%. Just ask everyone in society, how much
yeah.
has fuel gone up? How much has rent gone up? How much has food gone up? How much is buying a house gone up? How much is just living gone up? And it's not 7.5%. It's way
Mm,
more than that. So people are starting to look where they can put their money. Now, of course, we have war breaking out. For the last 2 years, I have said that war is coming. And
mm,
the reason why I believe war was coming, and it's coming to fruition, and I believe it's going to escalate even further where we are from where we are at the moment, is because if you look at macroeconomics, war is in fact part of the macro cycle. And it's quite confronting to think, what do you mean war is part of this macroeconomic cycle? Well, as we go through these cycles of finance and economics, eventually we get to a tipping point where war breaks out, and that's where we are now. Historically, that's always happened, lined up with the fact that fiat is also collapsing. The ultimate difference now is that we have an alternative. In the past, we didn't have an alternative. I often say on my channel, I'm big on Bitcoin, and those who get angry at me because they say, oh, Bitcoin's crap. I say, well, come onto the channel and tell me what's better. And I'm
mm,
very open to anyone who comes on and says, well, this is better because of X, Y, and Z, but no one's been able to present an argument to me. And it's not that I'm about Bitcoin because go orange. It's because I can't find a better alternative. Gold, you can't move around. And if you look at Peter Schiff as an example, he's saying, well, let's put gold in a vault and then we'll write notes against it. And I'm like, well, we're back to fiat because that's how fiat
mm,
started.
yeah.
We used to put gold in vaults. We wrote a note against it. Then the goldsmiths or gold keepers, if you will, which now are banks, they would write 2 notes against it, then 3 notes and 4 notes against it. So, 1 ounce of gold was owned by 4 or 5 people because no one ever did a run on it. And then
Mm,
eventually Nixon in 1971 delinked gold and the US dollar. So then we have what we've got now, which is fiat, unlimited money, which is printed without any limits and is destroying everyone's wealth. It's the invisible and brutal tax that is destroying lives everywhere. So then we go back to Bitcoin. The power of Bitcoin is that it acts like gold in the sense that it's scarce, but unlike gold, it's not heavy. I don't need to put it in a big vault, and I don't have to write notes against it.
mm,
And even if I were able to transact gold with you right now, even though you and I are on the opposite sides of the earth, we can't transact gold together. But let's say I did.
mm,
I put gold in a package, I express shipped it to you, and I gave you an ounce of gold. Well, you've got to test that gold. You've got to verify that gold. You've got
yeah.
to weigh it. You've got to check for its purity. But when it comes to Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies at large, the transaction is the verification.
Mm,
And people are starting to wake up to this. For me, I, I came for the Lambo, but I stayed for the evolution. And I find that with many people that they come because they think, you know, let's get rich. And I can't get angry at them. But those who stay, they understand it's so much bigger than the Lambo. It's so much
mm,
bigger than the new house and the fancy clothes and the Louis Vuitton bags. It's it's about the future of democracy.
mm,
And because money and democracy are so deeply intertwined, you can't separate the two. I remember when I first started the channel, I said, I'm never ever going to talk about politics. But when I had Crypto Lark on my channel a few times, I said to Lark, I said, do you try and keep politics out of Bitcoin and crypto, or do you find they're intertwined? And he said, you can't separate the two. And I've
mhm,
always thought about what he says there. He goes, you can't separate the two because they are so deeply intertwined. And he's completely right. And over the last few months in particular, I note that I've been, becoming a little bit more political within my commentary, but it's because you can't delink the two. Money and politics are deeply intertwined. Throw in oil into the equation, then you've got, if you will, war that we're going into now. It is more, if you want to get good at crypto, I say it's kind of like a Venn diagram. You've got all these different circles. You've got economics, you've got finance, you've got politics, you've got even psychology, you've got technical analysis,
Mm.
mathematics. And it's a Venn diagram where you have all these circles. And if you can manage all of them, you get that sweet spot right in the middle where you're going to make a good move. If you
Yeah.
don't, if you only focus on one, and I think this is where a lot of people get wrecked, all they focus on is the white paper or
Mm.
the shill boys or the triangles on a chart. It doesn't work that way. You have to have a holistic picture or you're going to get wrecked.
Yeah, you're right. It's not just looking at the TA or just looking at the white paper. There's fundamental analysis, there's sentimental analysis, and yeah, just going off the Moon Boy math or just going off one, news article will definitely get you wrecked in this space. And as you know, you've been around the block a few times. You have to get burnt a few times, I think. If you can
Yeah.
learn from other people's mistakes, fantastic. But I think you have to probably go through a few rug pulls and make some silly trades and then find out, okay, but still you need to do your own research and pump the brakes sometimes.
I'm
So I think,
glad you mentioned that, Matt, because you're dead right. You're going to get burnt. So I often use the Michael Jordan analogy. So let's say Jordan was the best basketball player in history. And to the basketball players out there, some will agree, some will disagree. But for argument's sake, let's look at Michael Jordan. He missed over 5,000 times playing
mm,
professional basketball. That's 5,000 shots he missed. Now, he didn't walk off the court and say, I'm no good at this, I'm out. He just kept turning up and was the greatest basketballer in history.
yeah,
If we translate that into the crypto or investing space, you're going to miss. There are going to be times that you lose investments. I've lost, tens upon tens of thousands of dollars in crypto,
mm,
but luckily I've made millions of dollars in crypto, and
mm,
that's because I keep turning up and I understand that you're going to miss sometimes. Sometimes you're going to get a rug pull. Sometimes you're going to make a bad investment. Sometimes you're going to put the wrong key in somewhere, and it's okay. The
mm,
What I try to tell, and that's why you go back to the cause of investing, only invest what you can afford to lose. Then you can turn up tomorrow and afford to lose another $10 tomorrow. Now, it's
mm,
not about just, throwing your money away. It's understanding that you're going to make mistakes. And even if you don't make mistakes, sometimes you just do everything right and everything looks good, but it just doesn't work out. And that's okay. What's really concerning to me is some people enter into the investment space. Their very first investment into crypto is a rug pull or a scam or it just
yeah,
falls to pieces. And they just walk away. They say, "Well, I'm never coming back. Crypto's a big scam." And I'm like, no, you've got to keep turning up. And the worst scams I see, and that's why at the beginning of every single video I make now, I say, I will never reply to you via WhatsApp or Telegram in the comments. They are
mm,
scammers. Stay away.
yeah,
And it's because these scammers are absolutely relentless in impersonating me. And they do it to all the YouTubers. They'll
mm.
take your photo, they'll make a fake profile that says,
It's
for me,
disgusting.
I've seen Adam Stokes, Adam Stakes, Adam Stalks, Adams Stokes, pinned by Adam Stokes, and they'll just keep making a different version of me.
Mm,
And the worst one I saw was there's a long time subscriber, and I still think about it sometimes. And they were with my channel for many years. And then just randomly, they wrote me an email, excuse me, saying, "Hey, Adam, I'm just really grateful for all of this investment program that you're doing with me." And I said, "What investment program?" And they said, "Oh, this." And I can't remember. What's it call it? I don't know, blue investing, whatever. I'm just making up a name. And I said,
mm,
"What's blue investing?" And they said, "It's a program that you've been talking through for the last 6 months." And I said, "Oh no, what have you done?" And I said, Can you contact me via this email address?" Anyway, they came clean and they put about $200,000 into this program. And of
oh
course,
no.
it wasn't me. And I said, "I told you I will never ask for your money. I will never ask you." And even those who have been in the space for so long, they can get caught. And of course, they lost that $200,000. And I've never seen them again. They've walked away from the crypto space forever. And I really feel for these people because it happens. It happens many times and it will
Mm,
continue to happen. Even the other day, I was going to Decentraland. And, I'm an experienced crypto goer. And I went into Decentraland and I went to go in there and it said, connect your MetaMask wallet. And I'm like, okay. And then it said, "Oh, this is down. Put in your seed phrase." And without even thinking, I went to put in and I'm like, hang on a second. That doesn't look right. And then I looked at the address bar. And of course, it
mm,
was a fake. But it looks so good. It was it was a perfect replication of the real site and everything. They'd obviously put a lot of money into this. But can
Mm.
you imagine, Matt? I would have put in my seed phrase and I would have lost everything in my MetaMask wallet. So
Oh.
you have to remain vigilant. And it goes back to why I believe also, I often say never more than 20% in one place. Now,
Mm.
if you can break it up into 10 different places, you know, you might have hot storage. And I do believe in hot storage because when I'm mobile, I like to have access to my hot storage every now and then.
Mm.
Now, I don't put 100% into my hot or even warm storage, but it's part of the ecosystem of being able to access your money anywhere in the world at any time. So I say no more than 20% in any one place. That's hot storage, cold storage, decentralized to centralized exchanges. You might have lending exchanges like BlockFi as an example.
Mm.
And the reason is because if any one of those are hacked or compromised, which could happen, um, losing 20% still hurts, but it's not losing 100%. I can remember
Mm.
years ago, I think it was Cryptopia. That was a New Zealand exchange. I had a few $1,000s in that, and that was a legitimate exchange, all above board. I was trading in that. One day my money was there. The next day it was closed, gone. All that money gone. That's not a scam. That's not a rug pull. That's not a hack. That's just business getting destroyed. And even last night, I released an article about CRO. People who have got loans off CRO, if they're not in the right country, CRO has just basically said, if you don't pay this money back within 7 days, we're going to liquidate your position. And I feel so sorry for these people because can you imagine going to CRO, you give them $1 million worth of Bitcoin so you can extract $500,000
Mm.
in stablecoins so you don't have to worry about tax and you think you've still got this appreciating asset. And then CRO changed the rules. They said, no, this is all allegedly. I have to explore it more, but this was coming from a reliable source. Suddenly, CRO wants all of their money back within 7 days. You don't have
Oh.
it because you've already gone out and bought your house or your Lambo.
Mm.
Then they liquidate your $1 million worth of Bitcoin. Not only do you lose that $1 million worth of Bitcoin, but now you've got a tax bill because you've been liquidated in your position, and the tax man sees that as a sold asset.
Yeah.
So it's brutal out here, which is
Mm.
why never more than 20% in any one place.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, like you said, you have to go through the ups and downs, and sometimes it can be a lot more brutal than other times. Of course, sending $10 to the wrong Ethereum address isn't the end of the world, but you losing hundreds of thousands of dollars to a fake YouTube influencer or someone impersonating you is just brutal. How do we then onboard newer people, or how does the crypto space become more user friendly, or do people just have to go through the school of hard knocks?
You know what? That's a really good question. I think it's dip your toe in the water. Don't go all in at once. You know, whatever it is, just and that's why I say whenever you're doing a transfer. So one of my rules as well is when you're doing a transfer, always do a test transfer. And
Mm.
I actually broke my own rule a while ago with some L1 gold. I had about $10,000 worth of L1 gold that I was transferring to a Maya wallet. And I was in a rush and I broke my own rule and I sent all of this L1 gold from point A to point B and it didn't show up. And it did I eventually tracked it down, but it took a lot of work and a lot of stress to get this money back. And I found it, and thank God I found it. Um,
How
but
did you get it back if you sent it to the wrong address?
it just no, it was the right address because I have multiple so when
Okay.
you, as an example, when you're flying, you have for all the pilots out there, they'll understand you have multiple checklists to go through. So
Mm.
even if you know how to fly, which most pilots do, of course, it doesn't matter. You still check these checklists. You say, right, you know, like a basic check is a fast check, flaps, undercarriage, speed, and trim. And
Mm.
even if you know what you're doing, you consciously say flaps, undercarriage, speed, trim, and so you
Mm.
never mix it. So when or miss it. So when I was doing a transaction, one of my rules is always first and last three. So you have a long string of characters, which is your wallet address, and no matter what, always check the first three and last three because one of those is wrong and you lose all of your transaction. So I did do the transaction correctly, but for whatever reason, it just took a month to come through, and I've never seen that before. I've seen, 10-minute block times and even an
Mm.
hour block time, but never 4 weeks. But it did eventually come through.
Wow.
Um, but if I could go back in time, I would have tested it. So to answer your question, the way to protect yourself is first of all, always do small transactions at first.
Mm.
Always only invest what you can afford to lose, but have multiple redundancy plans in place. You
Mm.
know, have I done the first three and the last three? Am I doing a test transaction? Does the website look right? am I releasing my seed phrase? And all of these checks that you go through, they will protect you in what you're doing. I think
Mm,
the other thing as well is you've really got to go to a YouTube space that doesn't advertise. Now, I'm conflicted with this. So I'll give an example. I get, and you'll experience as well. I get at least 12 advertising offers every single day.
mm,
Every single day,
mm,
I have a dozen companies writing to me saying, "Can you advertise this? Can you advertise that?" And my default answer to all of them is no. And the
mm,
reason why it's no is because probably 90% of them are scams.
mm.
But then the last 10%, they're probably going to fail, or 9.5% of them, because it's crypto and it's so
Yeah.
brutal out here. We've got over 17,000 cryptocurrencies at the moment, and that's
Mm,
of what we know of. And 95% of them will fail. Absolutely, they'll fail. That doesn't mean
mm,
you can't make money off them at the moment as a trader, because they're going to move for a while, but eventually they're going to collapse. So when it comes to those entering the crypto space, they need to find someone that they can trust. And the way they do that is, I think you want to avoid people who are shilling stuff. So I used to look at BitBoy and think he was good because he's big, but you can just see through history that he is blatantly shilled
mm.
some rug pulls. And
Oh,
the
did you see
historical.
this? Sorry to interrupt. Did you see the spreadsheet where someone had totaled up? If you'd followed all of his calls in the last year, how much you'd be down? I don't know if you saw
No,
that.
tell me about it. What does it look like? Oh, I'd hate to
I
think.
think that I think out of all the coins he'd shilled, one coin was 5% in profit. Everything else was down like 70, 80%. You'd be
I mean,
completely wrecked by following him. But sorry, I interrupted you there.
I'm no, I'm glad you did, because I mean, think about it, and that's why that reminds us. So he's got over 1 million subs,
Mm,
and you think that creates trust? No, it doesn't create trust. It creates the opportunity for scams, and I mean, you've just articulated with numbers how catastrophic that is.
mm,
And one of my mentors, who is very good, like some of the advertisers will come to me and they say, "Well, you've only got 21,000 subs," and I'm like, "Hey, I'm not. I don't need your money." This is the funny thing. Many people, advertisers, come to me like I need their money. It's like, I don't need your money. I've got money, and in
mm,
fact, I'm helping you. You're not helping me. So if you think of like radio as an example, let's say radio or television, there are marketing teams within radio and television who will really butter up the advertisers. They'll go to the advertisers. They'll take them out to dinner. They'll
mm.
make them feel good because they need their money.
Yeah.
YouTubers don't. Not crypto YouTubers don't. If they know what they're doing. I've got more than enough money to survive without ever advertising anything ever. So when
Mm,
advertisers approach me and they're like, we're going to give you the worst advertisement offer. I mean, I've had some pretty shockers, but there was one from, I won't mention the company, but they came to me and they said, "We want you to do an in-depth video and do a 30-second plug for the next 10 videos that you make, as well as a dedicated video to us, and we'll give you a $30 NFT." And I'm like,
what planet are you living on?
"Yeah, are you people insane?" I mean, I could work at McDonald's, and I have a lot of respect for the McDonald's workers, and I could do half an hour's work and probably get more than a $30 NFT, because how much does it cost to make a $30 NFT? It's nothing.
Yeah.
So, and what I'm trying to say here is, when people are coming into the crypto space as newbies, don't fall in love with a sub count. And
Mm,
that's why my mentor within crypto, he said, when advertisers come to you and they try and play the game of, "Oh, you've only got 21,000 subs, but BitBoy's got 1 million subs." It's like, my mentor was saying, "No, what you've got is you've got a trusted community," because
yeah.
everyone who writes to me in the comments, I reply to all of them, because I can, because there's 21,000 as opposed to 1 million of them. So that creates
Mm,
a lot of much more of a closer bond. Um, at the same time, when people are coming into the crypto space, I say, get your data diet. I'm very big on a data diet. Don't go to one source. I even say openly, don't just trust me. Get my opinion, and then get an opposing opinion to what I say. I believe the future of money is Bitcoin, but don't take my word for it. Go get an opposing view. Go listen to Richard Hart, who says that Bitcoin's going to zero. Now, it
mm,
doesn't make him or me bad. It's really about getting a balanced diet of everything that you do. So have systems in place, like a pilot, where you're going to go through checklists of everything you do. Only invest what you can afford to lose. Never go with a big provider or a big YouTuber simply because they've got a big sub count, because we can see they can often be corrupted. And
mm,
I'm not saying just because you're big, you're corrupt. I'm just saying that I go the other way. Just because you're big doesn't mean you're trusted, and equally, just because you're small doesn't mean you are either corrupt or non-corrupt. You have to try and get this balanced diet, which is, you know, like everything in life. Don't just eat apples. Get some apples and oranges and meat and all these other vegetables to get your balanced diet. When it comes to crypto, get your data diet and get
Yeah.
your information from a lot of people.
Yeah, I think those steps are universal, actually, and people should take them up. Of course, people are going to get burnt because it is a minefield out there, and you can fall into the right community, that has the support, and obviously you can fall into rug pull city and really get your fingers burnt. Talking about community, obviously you know about the Hexagon community, the PulseChain community. If I'm not wrong, you sacrificed for PulseChain, is that correct?
Yes, I did. Go back to Hex. So I didn't do the screenshot for Hex. And the reason why I didn't do it is because you have to understand hindsight is very easy to say, well, you
Mm,
should have got into it.
yeah,
We didn't know anything about it. When I was studying Hex, which was at the very beginning, was called Bitcoin Hex. Richard Hart had about 25 to 30,000 subs. He had
yeah,
never released anything that worked. And so there was huge trust issues. And I remember thinking when Hex was being released, there were some things that didn't make sense to me. First of all, it was a complex project compared to other projects to understand. Secondly, nothing had ever been done like it. Thirdly, we didn't understand Richard Hart in the sense that he hadn't proven anything by that stage. Of course, over time, he had proven what he can deliver. But there was also some red flags. Some of those red flags is at one stage, I mean, think about it. Richard Hart now hates Bitcoin, but originally he was going to call his project Bitcoin Hex. So that
yeah,
was
right.
a big, I mean, that's really big. I hate Bitcoin. Bitcoin's going to zero. Well, why were you calling Hex Bitcoin Hex? Now, again, a part of my book is pivoting on your position. It's okay to change your mind. And
Mm,
it's okay to watch other people change their mind based on new information. And I also remember that he hated Ethereum. He hated Ethereum. And then he built Hex on Ethereum. It's like, well, hang on a second. You used to hate Ethereum, then you built on it.
mm,
You used to love Bitcoin, now you hate it. So there was all these things that were conflicting me. It's like, I just can't trust this yet.
mm,
But over time, you saw that Hex, well, to date has worked. We don't know if it'll work in the future. I know the Hexagons believe it will, but I love Bitcoin and maybe it won't work. You have to be, you don't fall in love with your projects. I remember working, I won't say where, but it was a very important place. And one of my managers has said, Adam, the number one thing to know working here is don't fall in love with your projects because at any time the government can come in and just rug pull the entire project. And I've taken that over into life. And it's the same with crypto. Don't fall in love with your position. Whatever your position is, make sure that you can pivot on your position because it's okay. It's
yeah,
okay to pivot on your position, particularly if you're going to make money from it or save money. You can look at it both ways. Sometimes people make an investment and they say, no matter what, I'm riding this bad boy to the end. It's like, why? You can see you're in a nosedive. You're about to hit the earth at 200 kilometers an hour. Pull
mm,
out. No,
yeah,
I'm riding this one to the ground. It's like, okay, I'll see you later. Equally, if you think it's going to nosedive and suddenly new information comes in where it's now pulling up, you know, jump back on or jump in.
mm,
So, because Richard had proven himself with Hex, he created a lot of trust when it came to Pulse and PulseX. And so I have sacrificed for these, and I'm very interested to see what happens, but I haven't gone all in. And
mm,
many people say go all in. I say no, no, never more than 20% in one place, and that includes into a coin. Now, some people will disagree with me. As example, Michael Saylor is all in on Bitcoin. He
mm,
doesn't invest in any other coins. And I think he's missing out on a lot of opportunity
yeah,
because as Bitcoin, I think is in my opinion, you're comfortably going to see $1 million Bitcoin within our lifetime. But
mm,
even if it does reach $1 million, that's what a 20x, a 25x.
mm,
Whereas if I go into some of the lower market cap coins and some of the smaller coins, you can easily get 1,000x,
mm,
2,000x, 10,000x. So again, it's about hedging your bets and just spreading your risk. And because I've seen that Richard has proven himself with Hex and the community is very good, I often appear on Channel 7's AusBiz channel where they
mm,
talk about finance. And one of the questions that the presenter asked me, he said, how do you know what to invest in? And as you look at the fundamentals, what's its use case, what's the white paper, what's the team behind it? But I failed to answer this. One of the strongest things I found within crypto that's good to invest in is the community.
mm,
And it can be a double-edged weapon because you can have people that are so in love with it. So they think no matter what, and XRP is an example. XRP is a very divisive coin in the sense I say XRP is going to be big or zero. There's no kind of middle ground.
Mm,
Whereas if you look at a coin like Litecoin, I think Litecoin is a middle ground. I think Litecoin's going to be around for many years. I don't think it's going to be crazy, and I don't think it's going to dump. I just think it's going to be a consistent coin. I love using Litecoin, and I love mining Litecoin as well. Low energy, big blocks, very low transmission fees. It's just such a great coin,
mm,
but it's not going to give me the 10,000x of other coins. Equally, when we look at something like PulseX, you can't go all in because there are a lot of competitors to PulseChain. I mean, let's look at the smart contract coins. Just off the top of my head, you've got Ethereum, Cardano, Algorand, EOS, shall we say, Elrond Gold, Pulse. There's just so many
yeah,
competitors in that space. And who's going to win? I don't know. So what have I done? Well, I've just invested in all of them. And the
mm,
reason why I've invested in all of them is because I'm not about saying go Pulse because I love Richard. It's like, I think this project could work and I think we could make a lot of money. But if it doesn't work, I've hedged my bets in Ethereum. And if
mm,
Ethereum doesn't work, I've hedged my bets in Cardano. And if that doesn't work, I've done it in Algorand. And it's okay. It's okay if you want to be in this space to say, I'm going to die on the sword per se. I'm going to put
mm,
all of my money into that coin because I love that coin. Well, personally, I think you're an idiot. I think you're an idiot because why would you do that? Why would you risk so much just for your ego? You're in this space not for your ego. You're in this space to make money. And some people get triggered by that. It's okay. It's okay to make money. It's okay.
yeah.
But you have to remain level-headed with this. You have to make sure that you've done your research and you've hedged your bets.
Yeah. No, I see that a lot. I see both, obviously, a lot of open-mindedness, but also a lot of narrow-mindedness when it
Mm,
comes to, you know, the real cultish stuff around certain coins or protocols. Obviously, we're, all waiting, for Pulse Chain. Everyone's being patient, and we've been waiting since last year for it. And it may be out hopefully this spring or maybe this summer. What's going to be your play when it comes out? Are you just going to be holding your Pulse and your PulseX, or are you going to be jumping into any protocols? Anything you're excited about?
Look, really good question. It's so difficult to know what to do. Like let's look at Hex as an example. So some people sacrificed for Hex. Well, they didn't sacrifice. They did a screenshot for Hex, or they um, put some Ethereum into it. And on day one, they cashed out all of their chips, and they made a lot of money. But of course, they missed out on a lot of opportunity cost. But again, it's hindsight. How do you know? How do you know what these things are going to do? So
Mm,
if on day one Pulse launches and suddenly I'm sitting on $10 million, well, what do you do?
yeah.
And I say I'm a really big believer in dollar cost averaging out. We're so focused on dollar cost averaging in. Don't forget that you can dollar cost average out. So one tactic I've used that has been very, very effective for me is the rule of three. I'll give an example with Dogecoin. So Dogecoin, I bought, I think 2015 or 16 maybe, and
Wow.
it was worth nothing. I think it was 0.000003 of a cent.
Mm,
And then one day I got a phone call from a mate and he said, "Oh, how do I get buy Dogecoin?" I'm like, "Dogecoin? What do you want to buy Dogecoin for?" And he goes, "Because it's pumping." And I'm like, "No, it's not." And of course, then I open my phone. I'm like, "Oh my God, I'm rich." and it's like, well, what do I do? So I started speaking to some of my peers, and some said, "Sell it all," and some people said, "Hold." And I'm like, "No, no, I've heard both sides. You know what? I'm going to dollar cost average out." So I went into the rule of three, and this is where it's just something I do. I liquidated a third into a stable coin. And so that gave me all of my investment back and then some. I
mm,
put a third into Bitcoin and Ethereum. So I split that. And then I kept a third. So now what have I got? I've got free Ethereum, free Bitcoin,
mm,
free investment of my stable coins back, and a free bag of Doge. So I
mm.
cannot lose. No matter what happens
Yeah.
then, I cannot lose. But then, Matt, guess what happened? Doge pumped again. So what do I do? Well, rinse and repeat, do it again. I put a third into Bitcoin and Ethereum. I split that, a third into stable coins, and a third I left it where it was. So dollar
Nice.
cost averaging out, it's
Yeah.
a mind game. You remember we went right to the beginning of this interview. We spoke about the psychology of the markets. It's very painful when you're sitting on millions of dollars and then you don't have anything. In fact,
Mm,
there's one guy in particular, you hear horror stories of people having hundreds of millions of dollars worth of Bitcoin and their mum throws out the laptop where the keys are stored. And there was one, he's a British guy actually,
Yeah,
and he
I've
was
heard
very
this one.
forthcoming. There's a few of them. But he spoke about the depression that he went into, deep,
Mm,
deep depression, and I think even alcoholism, knowing that he was sitting on tens of millions of dollars and it's gone forever, and he'll never have that opportunity. Well, he believes he'll never have that opportunity again. But if I was coaching him, I'd say, mate, if you made $100 million before, you can do it again. Get back in the
mm,
field, get on the field and start
yeah,
playing again. Get in
yeah.
there. But he's gone the other way. He's gone into depression. So I really, when I think about what Pulse will do, you say, well, I'm just going to hold it. It's like, well, yeah, but what if it drops? And to the fanboys, they say it's never going to drop. It's going to beat Ethereum. You don't know.
Mm,
No one knows. No
mm,
matter what you say, you don't know what's going to happen. So if you can dollar cost average out of your position, and the same goes for all those Bitcoin boys. I've got a member of my family, a distant member, but they had $140,000 worth of Bitcoin in about 2014 as well, and they sold a lot. Now they bought it for like a few bucks, but they would now be sitting on over $250 million. Yeah, I mean, think about the mind game for that. You
mm,
say, I sold all of it, and on one hand, it's like, yeah, I got $140,000. Well, that's nothing compared to $250 million. But
mm,
then you go the other way and you say, well, I'm going to hold it, and then it crashes, and you say, oh, I could have had that $140,000. So
yeah.
really consider dollar cost averaging out. Just as you dollar cost average in, always think about dollar cost averaging out. But the other thing to remember with selling is this bloody tax liability. So the
Mm,
biggest liability for all of us in crypto, I say it's not actually the scammers, because once you've done your research, you've got experience, you can mitigate that risk.
mm,
It's not the rug pulls, because you can also mitigate that risk and spread your investment. It's actually your own government, and it's no dig at any government. Tax is part of life.
mm,
So you really have to figure out, how do I reduce my risk? Which is why a project such as Liquid Loans,
mm,
and so where I'm going to plug your work, is really appealing to me, because it's like, okay, how do I extract value out of this coin without A, losing the coin because it could go up further, but B, having this massive tax bill? And that's where
mm,
projects like Liquid Loans are very valuable, because it helps the community. It says, hey, you could be sitting on a gold mine here, but don't forget tax. And so many people get destroyed by tax. I remember getting into an argument with well, not an argument, a debate with one of my subs, and he goes, "You don't know what you're talking about. Crypto's tax free." And I'm like, "Oh God, this guy's going to get wrecked." And I said,
ouch.
"Yeah," and I'm like, "No, respectfully, if you read the tax code from your government, it's not tax free." And he's like, "No, you don't know what you're talking about." And I said, "Well, if you look at my interview with a chartered accountant who does this for a living, you'll see it's not tax free."
Mm,
And of course, it's like speaking to a wall. You can't get any decent
mm,
response from it. And of course, in the end, I later heard that this guy got destroyed because he sold all of his money. He was sitting on millions of dollars, and he went out and bought houses and Lambos and Ferraris or whatever. And then one day he gets a letter from the taxation office saying,
mm,
"You owe us $2.5 million." And it's like, I haven't got $2.5 million. It's like, well, too bad. And by the
yeah.
way, when you owe the tax office money, they will put interest on it, and that interest rate will be more than what the bank were putting on it. So, for example, if the banks are charging, as an example, 5% per annum on a home loan, the tax
Mm,
office will charge you 10% per annum on a tax debt, and they have to do that because otherwise people would purposely evade tax, knowing that they're going to get caught, and it's
mm,
just like it's like a free home loan. So don't forget your tax, and always remember that when you swap from point A to point B, so even if you're swapping from one coin to another, that is a taxable event.
mm.
Therefore, coins such as projects such as Liquid Loans can really help us all extract value out of whatever profits we stand to make.
Yeah, this is why DeFi 2.0 is so exciting. When I first came across it, and I'm sure you're the same and everyone watching, because I heard so many stories in 2017 of people being broke, becoming millionaires, and then becoming broke again, right? When 2018, the dump in 2018 kicked in. And so what do, right? You don't want to sell all your crypto in case, it goes to the moon, but then you don't want to become a millionaire overnight and then go back down to being broke again, do you? So having liquid loans and being able to, hold on to your crypto, acquire liquidity, it really is a game changer. But of course, you need to collateralize safely, and everyone needs to do their own research, be a responsible adult. But with these new protocols in DeFi 2.0, it really is exciting how it's going to go. Did you sacrifice for liquid loans, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I sacrificed for all three. So I sacrificed for Pulse, PulseX, and Liquid Loans.
Mm.
But again, there's no way I went all in on any of them because
Yep.
you've got to hedge your bets and you've got to calculate your risks. No matter how much I respect CC and Richard Hart and any project,
Mm.
it's crypto, and you have to remember. I always say, in crypto, anything can happen, and I really mean that. I mean, just look at Dogecoin.
Yeah.
Dogecoin. I was giving a lecture, a virtual lecture at Monash University in Australia, and I said, think about all of your, I said to the really smart students, in fact, incredibly smart students, the future of economics, without any doubt, that some of these guys were asking incredibly intelligent and in-depth questions. And I said, think about all your business courses and classes. When was the last time any professor explained to you the possibility of a meme coin? In fact, most professors don't even know what a meme coin is. So here you have a proof of work coin that is a joke, has an unlimited supply, and for whatever reason, it has captured the market and made unforeseeable amounts of money for people. So that's
Mm.
an example of where an openly crappy coin can go to the moon. Now let's go to the other end of the spectrum. Let's look at EOS. EOS was the most successful ICO in the history of crypto. Over $4 billion US dollars raised. $4 billion US dollars. What's EOS doing? Nothing. So
Mm.
no matter what money's behind it, no matter how crap it is or how good it is, in crypto, anything can happen. And when it comes to making money, I'll also put this out, Matt. I really encourage the viewers to learn how to be rich. And that might sound a bit funny. Believe it or not, in crypto, making money in crypto is actually quite easy. It's quite easy to get rich in crypto.
Mm.
What's difficult is maintaining that wealth. You might look at lotto winners, for example. So we
Mm.
can see, matter of fact, the majority of lotto winners go broke and end up in a worse position
Mm.
after winning the lotto in the long term than before they won the lottery. And the same is with inheritance. Many people end up in a worse position after they've got a huge inheritance than after they than before. So because when you get a big wave of money, you don't know how to manage it. You think you've got all the money in the world, but the problem is with having a huge wave of money is when you go out and buy a big house or a Lambo, you now have massive liabilities. And you might say,
Yeah.
well, a house is an appreciating asset. Well, okay, but when you buy a big house, you've got big insurance, you've got
Mm.
big maintenance,
Yeah.
you've got big rates, you've got big land tax, and they are all big expenses that you have to maintain. When you go out and buy a Lambo, each tire is worth $2,000. And if when you want to change tires, that's $8,000 worth of
Yeah.
tires. Then you've got $10,000 worth of insurance a year. And then of
Yeah.
course you've got a fuel bill which is off the charts. So don't don't just focus on I put this out to everyone. Don't just focus on making the money. Focus also on maintaining that wealth because getting into a lot of money can in fact be very dangerous. And many people on the outside say, I know I'd be okay. How could you possibly go broke if someone gave me $10 million? I could live forever. Statistics disagree with you. Mathematics show that statistically, those who are given $10 million within years will go broke. So always, that's why, I'm always very careful with my money. Even the other day, I bought myself a present the other day. It's the first time I've bought myself a big present, and it was a big screen TV. So I rarely watch TV, but when I do, I try and make the most of this situation.
Yeah.
And I haven't bought a TV for over a decade, but I I did invest in that thing because I admit it's a depreciating asset. I know
Mm.
that if I lose all of it, if the TV blew up tomorrow, it's okay. It's insured, but there's no ongoing expense with that. But I also test drove an M5 the other day. So that is a beautiful car. It's a quarter
Mm.
of $1 million BMW. I love my Beamers, and I could have paid for it with cash, but I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to buy it. First of all, it's a huge liability.
Mm.
Second of all, it's a depreciating asset. But third of all, it's opportunity cost. If I give BMW a quarter of $1 million to buy this M5, that's probably going to be $4 million worth of whatever coin tomorrow. So when you look at it that way, it's like it's not a quarter of $1 million Beamer. It's a $4
Mm.
million Beamer. And when I look at it that way, it's like that car's not worth $4 million. I'm not buying it.
It's the Bitcoin pizza all over again, isn't it? That's the only
Yeah.
thing about crypto. Every time you go to buy something, you're like, well, hang on, I could buy this, and then that can go up and appreciate. And it's going back to what you said, it really is about mindset and financial IQ, because when people win the lottery, obviously they get this big economic energy, this big payout, but then their self-worth or their mindset or their financial IQ doesn't match up to it, and it wants to get rid of it, right? Because it feels actually uncomfortable. So I think that's great advice for people to get into that mindset of being rich and how to maintain your money. I've heard that many times growing up. It's easy to make money, but it's hard to keep it. So great advice there, Adam.
It's like driving a powerful car. I mean, you know, if I give you a very quick car, if you don't have experience, you're going to wrap it around a tree.
Mm,
And even if I'll go back to the flying analogy, you know, they don't put you in a jet on day one. They put you in a little bug smasher, a little Cessna, and then you build up to a training jet, and then before you get into the fighter,
yeah.
you go in stages. And it's actually the same with money. If you go from broke to fighter jet, you're going to get wrecked.
Yeah.
And that's why if you do come across money, you know, just don't do anything at first.
Mm,
Well, the only thing I say is just get rid of your debt. And you know, you got to be so careful saying giving any financial advice. But there's one thing I've experienced in life, and is that if you don't have any debt, you can't really get into more trouble. So if you
mm,
have any debt, if you come across big money straight away, and you may have a student loan or a home loan or a car loan,
mm,
get rid of it straight away.
yeah.
Because then at a minimum, at least you've got rid of that liability. And then when it goes on to, you know, buying toys and stuff, just take it easy, slow
Mm,
down, you know, really think about it and say, hang on a second, how much trouble is this going to get me into? And also when it comes to charity, I think giving is a very important part. So in the past,
yeah.
I used to give to centralized charities. I don't anymore. I don't believe in centralized charities. And the reason why I don't believe in centralized charities is for the same reason why I don't believe in centralized financial systems. They're corrupted. Now,
Mm,
I'm not saying charities are corrupt at their core. I'm just saying that there's a lot of inefficiencies within charities. I've got no issue with the good CEO of a charity getting a good wage. I think that's more than okay. If you want a good charity to be run well, you want a qualified person at the top to run it. And that qualified person should be entitled to good remuneration to run that charity. But just
mm,
from my experience in life, for me, I much prefer seeing someone who's struggling and just walking up to them and giving them food. I may not necessarily give them cash because
mm,
you know what the cash could be used for, something
yeah.
bad. But if I buy them a meal or give them a pair of shoes or in
Mm,
winter give them a jacket, that's my part for the community. And also in your local community as well, you might see someone, you know, like at my supermarket as an example, there's this lady there she's always working, and I can see she's a hard worker every single time I go, no matter what time of the day or day of the week I go, she's always there. And at Christmas, I just went up and gave her 200 bucks, and she's like, "What?" And, you know, because we don't think about tipping someone at the supermarket. You might think about
yeah.
tipping a barmaid or a waitress or waiter, but would you tip someone at your supermarket?
Mm,
Now, that's just kind of my way of giving, as opposed to giving a centralized charity. Now, this is all up to everyone. You give how you want to give, but I think it's important that when you do come across this money, and Richard Hart has demonstrated this as well, give. Make sure you give, because who knows, one day you'll be at the other end and you'll need what you've been giving out. You'll be needed to be given to you.
yeah. I completely agree. I mean, once you've got your, needs met and you and your family are, living a good life, I think it's very important to give back to people who are more in need. And that's what I like about the Hex community. I feel the mindset is more mature. I think a lot of the people have been in crypto a bit longer, more than the meme coin space and stuff. And there is a lot of talk about, community and giving back and stuff. So that really resonates with me, and I'm sure a lot of people watching. Listen, Adam, this has been really, really good, and I really appreciate your time. Before I let you go, though, I'd like to find out what your goals are for your content, for your channel, and even life in general.
Sure. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. I think ultimately I seek the truth, and I just want to empower people through knowledge. I don't want to sell anything per se. I just want to give them knowledge so they can make their decisions. When people come to me and say, "Here's some money, buy me Bitcoin," I say, "No, buy your own crypto, hold your own crypto, because that's what it's about."
Yeah.
My channel is about exploring the truth. Of course, I have my biases. I'm human, but I'm really open to debate. I want to hear both sides of the argument. I want to explore the truth, and I want to empower people to ensure that they can make the right decision. I don't want to give them the fish per se. I'd rather teach them how to fish, and I want to ensure that democracy prevails. And that's why I'm a big believer in Bitcoin, because it takes away centralized money printing power and brings it back to I guess, the decentralized money that is Bitcoin and the future of democracy, which is not going to be corrupted by centralized financial systems that are just really making a mess out of money, particularly through the invisible and brutal tax of inflation. If people want to learn more from me, they can come over to my channel, which is called Adam Stokes. They can buy my book on Amazon, which is 28 Pro Trader Tips: The Art of Trading. Very easy book to read. And finally, I've created the Crypto Land. That's the crypto.land. It's a website. It's a very simple website, purposely a simple website where every single product that I use in crypto is on the crypto.land. So if you want to buy crypto, stake crypto, lend crypto, earn interest on your crypto, do your crypto taxes, or do anything crypto, whether you're a newbie or an experienced person, I put my name on the crypto land to say, look, if it's on the crypto.land, it's a product that I trust. I can't guarantee it'll always be trustworthy because it is crypto, therefore anything is possible. But I can guarantee it's something that I use and something that I trust.
That's great. I think what we've talked about this has all been about the truth, and I can see that you're a real truth seeker. So I really appreciate your time, Adam. Thanks for coming on, and you'll have to come back on the channel again sometime soon.
I'm honored, Matt. Thanks for having me.
So I hope you enjoyed that interview and chat with Adam Stokes. If you did like the video, guys, do hit that subscribe button and that bell icon so you're notified every time we drop new videos and content on the channel. You can also gently tap the like button, share the video with someone who you think it may benefit, and if you're feeling very kind, maybe drop a comment below for the algo. It does help us out. Thanks for watching, and I will see you on the next one.